Welcome into First and Goal, presented by the Clutch Team. My name is Kyle Eaton. His name is Connor Hogan. He's got 4 questions, 4 downs to answer. So let's get right into things. We got week 2 action here. I think we'll start with some Kyler Murray. So this past weekend, Cardinals Vikings play a really close game. Kyler Murray shines very brightly in that game. Connor, what was your reaction to Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray looks really, really good through the first 2 weeks of the season. First game, week 1, a blowout win against the Titans. That whole team looked great. Kyler Murray looked really good, 21 for 32 for 289, 4 touchdowns and a single pick. Comes in week 2, and it's the Vikings, 29 for 36 for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. The biggest takeaway for me about Kyler Murray playing these first 2 games of the season, 1, he's got almost a 74% completion rate, and he's sharing the ball pretty well, given he's got a great group of receivers down there in Arizona now, led by D-Hop. AJ Green's playing really well, and a few other of those guys are doing great. Also, huge thing for me on Kyler Murray, he only has 10 rushes to start the season. 10 rushes. He's had 5 in each of the first 2 games. He rushed for 20 yards in week 1 and 31 yards in week 2. Coming from where he has been, where as soon as anything happens, he's gone out of the pocket and taking off. The fact that he only has 10 rushes through 2 games and has put up the throwing numbers that he has, wildly impressive. Shows that he's grown a lot. And, I mean, that offense in general has just really kind of stepped in more of that air raid system that Kingsbury likes.
Yeah, I think Kyler Murray's been really impressive. Like you said, that's nothing new. I think everybody can agree with that he's been super impressive. He has at least 1 or 2 plays every game that you can point to and say that was incredible. And that's something that we only see in the truly special quarterbacks. It's actually how you can determine whether or not a quarterback is special, is does he have something you can point to and say that's special? That's something extraordinary. This is why we have such a big issue with quarterbacks like Baker and Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr. You know, these guys are all perfectly fine quarterbacks. They all get the job done. They'll all win you games. You know, I think Baker's on the high end of that spectrum, and Derek Carr's kind of with him, and Jimmy G's on the low end of that spectrum. But still, they're perfectly fine quarterbacks. They don't do anything particularly special, and that's why people are always looking to say, oh, they're overrated, they're overhyped. Ryan Tannehill is an example of this since he's joined Tennessee, where he doesn't do anything spectacularly, but he's a solid quarterback. And there's nothing wrong with being a solid quarterback, but how you determine the truly special quarterbacks is by the traits that they possess. Is there something you can point to and say, that's incredible, that's spectacular, that's something that you don't see very often in the league? He's unlike anything we've ever seen. He's completely unique. He has the rushing ability of Lamar. Not quite Lamar. I would say Lamar's still the better runner, but Kyler Murray is right up there in escapability and how he maneuvers and his quickness. But he's got super high-end arm talent, super high-end. He can throw the ball long. He can throw it with accuracy. He can zip it in there. He's truly a unique player. I don't think I've ever seen anybody like that in the NFL, at least. We've had the Michael Vicks that move around, but Michael Vick wasn't nearly as accurate. We've had Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is not nearly the arm talent that Kyler Murray is. He makes some questionable decisions from time to time. He's kind of got to learn when to throw it away. He's reckless with the ball. He takes risks a lot. But that's just something, we've talked about this before. It's something you see when you have an electric player playing quarterback. But yeah, he's been really special, really special. And I am wholly impressed with how the Cardinals have looked. Connor? Looks like we got some difficulties.
Yeah, especially with that. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. So, especially with that offense, it fits into Kyler Murray's play style. Probably he's in that top echelon of great head coach offensive system quarterback matches that you could possibly have in the league, right? So you have like Kyler Murray in that air raid with Cliff Kingsbury. You have Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, again, very air raid, similar offense. Like you kind of need that coming in with these new quarterbacks now, because systems are getting so complex that you almost have to build an offense first and then go find your quarterback and be, okay, this guy can play in our system. Because we've seen it before where teams will have a system and then they go out and get a quarterback and they're like, okay, we want to build an offense because of this guy. And then it just doesn't end up working because you have the wrong talent already there. Like you don't have, you get a quarterback that runs RPO a lot. Like same thing with Tennessee, right? Like they get Ryan Tannehill, not anything special, and they base their whole game around Derrick Henry, right? That offense is not built around Ryan Tannehill. I think everybody knows that. So, but Kyler Murray, that offense is built around Kyler Murray. Like he is the linchpin of that offense, and he's showing it now that, yeah, I am built for this offense. This is exactly how I'm going to succeed in the NFL, and this is just where we're going to go with it, right? You have D-Hop, Green, you brought in guys who are going to make him better because that is the offense you're running.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's the difference between special and good is that right there that you just said. Ryan Tannehill, the offense isn't built around Ryan Tannehill. It's built around Derrick Henry. You're running the ball down your throat, and Ryan Tannehill can succeed off of that action. Browns are the same way. The offense is not built around Baker Mayfield. It's built around a strong rushing attack, and Baker Mayfield succeeding around that. There's nothing wrong with having an offense like that. You can win in the NFL with an offense like that. You could argue, I mean, I know it's a different sort of thing because Tom Brady, the New England offense was kind of built around, the whole New England system was built around Tom Brady. But the only time that you can really point to and say this offense is built around Tom Brady was the 2007 season and the time when they had Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez at tight end, and you just throw it to the tight ends all down the field. But outside of that, the Patriots were pretty well known for a strong rushing attack. Never really had that number one guy, but same scenario where it's kind of built around the rushing attack. A little different because Tom Brady's Tom Brady, and everything is going to go through him anyways. But similar scenario to this where there's nothing wrong with having an offense built like that. You can win in the NFL like that. But like you said, the difference between the good and the special is that the offense is built around them. Lamar, the offense is built around him. And you can point to something with Lamar. His rushing ability, his ability to avoid potential sacks and get down the field, unlike anything we've ever seen. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, just all sorts of special. And that offense runs through him. Drew Brees was deadly accurate. So they never really had like deep threats on the Saints, but they would have those possession receivers and running backs, and they would go through that. Who else am I thinking of? Aaron Rodgers. Not so much in Green Bay. He's had his gripes about that, but they've always had. That offense goes through Aaron Rodgers, and you can point to special with that. Special players do special things. The one question I have is that the Cardinals' offense is electric. They've got Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins. What's that rookie's name? Rashawn Moore? Moore.
Yeah,
Is it
Moore.
Rashawn? I don't know if it's Rashawn. I'll have to look that up.
I think it is.
All great receivers. Great combo of speed, size. I actually really question when are we going to start looking at their receivers. Rondale Moore. That's what his name is now. It comes to me. I'm questioning when we're going to finally start comparing the Cardinals receivers to how the same light we put the Cowboys receivers in or the Tampa Bay receivers in, because they're all really good. Christian Kirk is a great receiver, DeAndre Hopkins is obviously DeAndre Hopkins, and Rondale Moore has been fantastic these first 2 weeks of the season. And obviously Kyler pulling the strings. The only question I have is how long do they keep this Cliff Kingsbury thing going? Because I feel like it has to come to an end. It feels like this team is primed for success. It seems like they're right on the precipice of being a real, true contender. And they have to really decide, is he the coach to bring them to that success? Is he the guy that's going to get them there? I personally don't think so. I have to give him credit. It was I mean, I would assume it was his idea to go with his guy in the draft. Right after they drafted Josh Rosen the year before, they decide this isn't going to work. They turn around, they draft Kyler Murray. Great decision in the long run. They'll never regret it. And it's a decision that not many teams in the NFL make. You see a lot of times they kind of just stick with the guy, stick with that guy, stick with the guy, and keep running their head into the same wall. But outside of that decision, has he only been holding them back? We've seen this before from the Cardinals where they start out really high. Last season, what did they start out? Yeah, they started out 6-3 in weeks 1 through 10. That week 10 matchup was Cardinals-Bills. That's when the Hail Murray came. The Hail Mary that ended the game to DeAndre Hopkins. After that play, after that game, they went 2-5 in weeks 11 through 17 and missed the playoffs, went 8-8. That's coaching. Like that, teams are going to go on runs. You're going to have, and at the same time, teams are going to go through slumps. Very few teams are built to win every single game of the year. Any NFL team is going to go through a slump, a losing streak. It's going to happen. It's how you rebound from that. And the Cardinals just never rebounded from that slump. I think that's on Cliff Kingsbury, and I just question if he's the guy going forward. I don't know what you think on that.
I think you're right. I don't think Kingsbury's the guy. And this all kind of starts with their, I don't want to say total abandonment of the run game, but that's part of it, right? You have David Johnson there before. He gets hurt. They ship him in the trade with DeAndre Hopkins. Again, something they will never regret. Then they go out and they get Kenyon Drake from Miami partway through last season, I believe. And he had an incredible resurgence in Arizona. He had great games. He had a few 100-yard rushing games, I think. And then they let him go at the end of last season in the preseason this year. And I think that's a huge thing. And we see it in college a lot. Cliff Kingsbury actually had this issue in college, coaching Texas Tech, where he was all air raid all the time, didn't have a run game, and he got in those troubles, right? They'd win the first stretch of the season. Guys aren't ready to be running all over the field in weeks 1 through 5, 6. They're still, getting acclimated to game time. And then people lock onto it. They start playing deep zones. They start, press man, whatever you want to do. And then you have to come back at some point to the run game. I think that's one of the things that's going to kill the Cardinals is they don't have that right now. They don't have a strong run game. They don't have a number one running back right now. And it's going to come down to that later in the season. And obviously that receiving core is going to be incredible. But when you get deeper into the season and teams start figuring out, okay, if we play the Chiefs, it happened to the Chiefs. All right, we're going to lock down, right, D-Hop. We're going to double D-Hop. Then we're going to let guys attempt to beat us everywhere else on the field. And if they don't have a run game, you're going to get in trouble. And I think that's what's going to kill Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona is his total reliance on air raid offense. And it's just not going to get them where they need to be. And like I said, we saw the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They didn't have a running game. The Bucs just came after them, and that was that, right? And so that's kind of what we're looking at in Arizona right now, too.
Yeah, I understand they don't have a running game, and that's got to be fixed. And you're right that late in season, that stuff matters. The teams that run the ball well do well. You see Tennessee. When does Tennessee reach their best? After week 12 is when they really start to kick it into high gear because they can just run all over teams. And like you said, guys aren't really prepared to run all over the field with these receivers weeks 1 through 8. And, it's a slow start to the year. But the reverse of that happens in the later stages of the season where the linemen are now, they're 14 weeks in, they're battered, they're bruised, they're injured. And they don't really want to tackle the 225-pound Derrick Henry or whatever he is. He's probably more than that. I don't think I'd want to tackle the 230-pound Derrick Henry in week 16 when my team is, 4-12. I don't think I'd want to do that. And like you said, the passing defense steps up later in the season because I don't know what it is, but I think it's the colder months mean less passing because it's a lot harder to catch a ball when your hands are freezing cold than it is when it's 85 degrees and sunny. And of course, in Arizona, they're never going to have that problem of it being 35 degrees. But they're going to travel elsewhere. They got people in the NFC they're going to have to travel to. What if Arizona goes to the playoffs, has to travel to Green Bay in the middle of December, January? That's not going to be a fun time for them. And you can't pass the ball. I don't care how good your passing offense is. No passing offense goes to Green Bay in January and it has a great day. It just doesn't happen. You have to be able to run the ball effectively. And you're right. That's going to cause the end of them. I just also don't think that Cliff Kingsbury, he deserves some credit, right, for how well the offense is going and putting Kyler Murray in a position to succeed. And not all the mistakes that happened on offense are his fault. Like I said, Kyler Murray makes some questionable decisions. He's kind of risky with the ball. He needs to learn when to throw it away. Those are all drive killers. Like we said before, you take that with a special player. When someone makes exceptional plays, they also make exceptional mistakes. It's going to happen, but it's something you take. But I think Cliff is best suited. If Cliff Kingsbury was an offensive coordinator, he'd be the best offensive coordinator in the league. For what they've done with the Arizona offense, he would be up there at least. Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach, he's probably one of the weaker head coaches in the league, and that's just a fact of the matter. That defense added J.J. Watt in the offseason, and they can't stop Kirk Cousins. I know J.J. Watt's not the same player he was years ago, but J.J. Watt's still an effective player. So I question it. I really do question how far can Arizona go. Kyler Murray, to sum up this whole thing, is incredible, and I don't think there's any doubt in that. But how far can Arizona go playing the way they've been playing? Like I said, we saw it before. 6-3, weeks 1 through 10. 2-5, weeks 11 through 17. You know when it starts getting cold? Weeks 11 through 17. That's just what happens. Unacceptable to finish 8-8 and miss the playoffs after starting 6-3. I think we can both agree on that. All right. Do you got anything else to say on that?
No, not really. I mean, we're going to see where Arizona goes with this. I hope they do well. I mean, I think they have a good chance of making out of the NFC West. But like you said, if they have to go somewhere cold in January, we might be saying different things about the Cardinals.
Right. Side note, when I was watching the game highlights for this, Gus Johnson is an incredible announcer. Like, he really loves the game and shows it too. I know you've got your hot takes on announcers, but I really like Gus Johnson. I think he's great. It shows real passion for the game. Okay, so second and goal, Chiefs versus Ravens, Sunday Night Football. Great game, lots of ups and downs. Connor, just overall, your biggest takeaway from the game?
Lamar gets a win against the Chiefs. I think that's the biggest thing for everybody. I think a lot of people have been looking for a true rivalry to start between these two, especially, the Mahomes-Lamar thing. They came out this week and they're like, oh, it's not about the rivalry. They're going to play how they're going to play. I think if you're a football fan, this is huge. I think people want the next Peyton Brady rivalry in the NFL, somewhere we're going to see for years those two guys going toe-to-toe. Hopefully battling for, Super Bowl appearances out of the AFC. I think that's what everyone is looking for. I know we're going to throw the Bills in there because I don't think anyone doubts what Josh Allen can do, but I think a lot of people want to see the Brady-Peyton rivalry style renewed in Mahomes-Lamar. Lamar has another incredible game, 200-plus yards throwing, 100-plus yards rushing. He, wills that offense to a win. He does throw 2 picks, but that's kind of, it's whatever at this point. We know it's going to happen. And he still wins the game, right? So that's the biggest thing for me. He goes from 0-3. He's now 3-1 against the Chiefs. And I'm excited to see how it goes from here.
Yeah, I really like this matchup, the Chiefs versus the Ravens, for one huge reason is because it's kind of 2 contrasting play styles within the same style. The Chiefs obviously very pass happy, very pass forward. Just how many yards can you rack up in the passing category? The Ravens very run forward, run heavy. but they're both the same in the sense that they both run through the quarterback. The quarterback is the main cog in the machine. Chiefs, none of that works without Patrick Mahomes. Ravens, none of the stuff they would do works without Lamar Jackson. So it's kind of two contrasting play styles, but run through the same idea of just the quarterback is the offense. Lamar was incredible that game. I'm not going to get super into it. I had that whole rant last week. I don't need to get into it again. But the resilience he showed in this game was really, really exceptional. He, like you said, he threw those 2 picks early. One of them looks like Sammy Watkins slipped. The other one was just a bad throw. But the first one where Sammy Watkins slips is a pick 6 to start the game. And you texted me at the time. You were like, you can't have these sorts of plays against the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't give them free points. And he seemingly did that twice very early into the game, the first quarter. Throws 2 picks and gives the Chiefs free opportunities at points. And at one point, one of them just free points on the defensive side. And you're thinking at that point, once he throws that second pick, this is over. Like we've still got a long ways to go, but it's done. Like they're not going to bounce back. You can't give the Chiefs those opportunities. Chiefs scored. I would like to know the Chiefs' record under Patrick Mahomes when they score a defensive touchdown because it's probably pretty good. But he showed resilience and kind of just never stopped fighting, and that's something that we've liked with Lamar, right? Is that he just doesn't stop. He doesn't quit. When a lot of people. I mean, if he just, after that second interception, said, you know what, not my game, not our game, we're already we put ourselves in too big of a hole, let's just kind of survive for the next week. No, I don't think anybody would have blamed him. He would have gotten ridiculed for the 2 picks, but nobody would have blamed him. Ironically enough, the game turns on Mahomes' interception, and it almost seemed like his interception mattered more than Lamar's too, just because of time and game situations later in the game. Ravens are starting to make a push to come back, and he just has what was a really bad throw. And if 31 other quarterbacks in the league do that, specifically a handful of them that get criticized all the time, Baker did almost the exact same throw at the end of the game, week 1. If Lamar Jackson does that throw, the one where he's running and gets tackled from behind and kind of throws while he's falling. He did it in the Super Bowl, and it almost resulted in a touchdown. He threw it 40 yards down the field. Very impressive. But Baker did the same exact throw last week, and people were like, what the hell is this guy doing? What is he thinking? It just seemed to matter more when he did that. And the game turned, and it was just, at that point, you knew Ravens were going to score. They were going to take the lead. Like, it was all Ravens. Didn't know that it would end up winning them the game because obviously Chiefs get the ball late and Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbles on that last possession. Still confused as to why the Chiefs ran the ball there. But it happened. Ravens walk away with a win. Tough win. My brother said after the game he didn't understand why the Ravens were celebrating like it was a Super Bowl because it's a big win. It's a big win. Anytime you beat the Chiefs is a big win, especially if you're a playoff contender. Anytime you beat the Chiefs is a big win because they're perennial Super Bowl contenders at this point with Patrick Mahomes. So it showed that they can compete with them. One player in particular stood out to me in this game. First and goal, early in the 4th quarter, the Ravens run read option right, and Lamar keeps the ball. And he ends up beating the linebacker on the outside and reaches for the pylon and gets the score, makes 35-30. I watched that play in real time, and I watched it on the replay, and I had the same reaction at both times. There are not many players that could have made that play because it's not just about beating the linebacker to the outside and scoring. It's how it happened. The Chiefs actually played a great defense on that play and read it really well. Played good contain. 2 players contained Lamar, so he shouldn't have even kept it. It was actually probably the wrong read. But they just couldn't stop him. He was just too good. And he ends up beating the guy outside. The guy the guy does everything right. The linebacker makes him swing it way outside, pushes him to the sideline. Looks like they're going to lose yards. And Lamar just, at the last second, cuts in, dives, stretches, hits the pylon, scores. I struggle to think of, 3 players in NFL history that can make that play. You might say Kyler Murray could, but at Kyler Murray's size, can he reach the pylon? Can he do that sort of thing? And he's not quite as fast as Lamar. not many players could do that, and that was really special. And that's when I talked about last segment about the special players do special things. That was a special play by a special player, and it set the tone for the rest of the game. And you saw it late fourth quarter. They have the ball after the Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble, 4th and 1, and John Harbaugh calls Lamar's number. Lamar calls his own number. Whatever one happened, and they secure the win. And he gets the first down. They secure the win. Special players do special things, and Lamar was really special this game. Patrick Mahomes was too. Patrick Mahomes was fantastic and really only made one mistake the whole game. Not a fair result for him because Patrick Mahomes probably played a little bit better than Lamar. Lamar actually we saw 2 interceptions. Lamar actually made a couple more mistakes. But like I said, it's 2 special players going at each other. And I just love the matchup. I really do. I love the matchup.
Yeah, I think another big thing out of this game, and this is obviously Lamar has another great game, that Chiefs offense is finally really coming together with all the injuries they've had. I think a lot of teams, especially the Ravens, when the Ravens will obviously see the Chiefs again later in the season, in the playoffs, that Chiefs defense, with the exception of Tyrann Mathieu and Sorensen, looks worse each time I watch them play. I understand that rookie linebacker had a great game, whatever his name was, Adam Mizzou. He had an awesome game. The biggest mistake the Chiefs made coming into the season on defense was putting Chris Jones at defensive end. I don't know why they did that. I don't know what the thinking behind that decision was, but it was a terrible call in Kansas City. He is built to stop the run, an interior lineman who is designed to stop the run. And the fact that he is ineffective on the edge. He's not fast. He's a huge dude. He's strong. He's powerful. He is not fast enough to be on the edge out there for Kansas City. And that's a huge thing for them. And people now know, hey, if we're going to run read option, we read Chris Jones now, one of the slowest guys on that defense. And we can now read him to stretch runs outside. And no one's scared of running up the middle anymore. You're not scared about getting bull rushed. You're not scared of, having to double team the middle because Chris Jones is out there. And if you have a pretty solid tackle, you're going to be able to handle it. Yeah, he's probably going to get a few sacks and some pressures, but you're not worried about 6'6", 2 something, if not 300 pounds, Chris Jones coming dead down the line at your 6'1", 330-pound center, right? He's out there on the edge. You're not really worried. He's not going to make a blow-by play. And that's one of the big things for that Chiefs defense. They just keep making these little mistakes that are going to keep getting them in trouble. And we saw it. Lamar runs around the edge. I think he did it 2 or 3 times. And that's the thing. You can't keep making these mistakes and being like, okay, we're going to be fine because we have this offense. Yes, that offense is going to win you games, but also, just like the Ravens did and the Titans did it too to an extent last year, if they can get the ball, hold on to it, and run it down your throat all game, the Chiefs aren't going to stop you on defense. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's the biggest thing for the Ravens to take out of this game is, okay, we have the recipe to beat the Chiefs now, right? Tampa figured it out in the Super Bowl. The Raiders figured it out last year. And people are starting to get that recipe. Okay, as long as we play deep on defense, they're not going to run us around. They don't have a run game. And on offense, we're just going to run it down their throat because they can't stop us. So it's very interesting to see. Great job by the Ravens for exploiting this. Excited to see where it goes from here. But yeah, great job on the Ravens for getting this win.
Yeah, I think that decision to move Chris Jones to the outside is a bad decision, but it's an especially bad decision when you play teams like the Ravens with Lamar Jackson and the Bills with Josh Allen who can run. It's an especially bad decision when you find yourself in those scenarios where your top 2 competitors have hyper mobile quarterbacks who can just flat out outrun him. I think that the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick from last year, it's a little too early to tell, but that's going to go down as one of the all-time bad picks considering the circumstances for a Super Bowl contender. It's too early to tell for sure, and he's really young into his career, and he could get better. But I feel like it's going to go down as one of those picks that was just, what were they doing? What were they thinking? First of all, first round pick on a running back. Nobody likes that. He was a first round pick, right? He was end of the first round. So, but I don't think it'll ever get the credit for being a bad pick, because I think what's going to end up happening is he's just going to get lost in the shuffle because the Chiefs offense is going to keep on moving, whether or not they have a running back or not. They're going to put points on the board just by simple having Patrick Mahomes on the team, like just by proxy of having that. So it doesn't matter who they stick at running back. They're going to put points on the board. But that position matters in the long run because, like you said, in those games where they can't pass the ball because the team plays super, super soft coverage on them, and Tampa did it, give Travis Kelce can have 33 catches for all they care. But if they're 33 catches at 10 yards a pop, it's better than Tyreek Hill at 7 catches at 23 yards a pop. I think any team can accept that. So not having that run game ends up having consequences in the long run, even if in the short term it doesn't look like it has any effect, because they'll still put up points. They'll still be one of the higher scoring offenses in the league. But we talked about it earlier. When those big moments come, you're going to need to run the football. One thing that I thought from this game, John Harbaugh does not get enough credit for being just an exceptional coach, like just ultimate great coach. Ultimate trust in his guy at the end. I think everybody saw the clip of John Harbaugh asking Lamar if he wants to go for it. John Harbaugh already had his decision made on that, but just having trust in his guy, like being like, you want to do this, right? All-time confidence in his guy. He really decided in that moment, win or lose, he was going to live with the result of putting it in his best player's hand. And you've got to give him credit for that. Is if Lamar makes this or if he doesn't, we put it in the hands of our best player, and we're going to let our best player decide the game. And that's what happened, is their best player decided the game. He really ranks up there with the Tomlins, the Andy Reids, the Sean McVays. Obviously, Bill Belichick is in his own stratosphere. But John Harbaugh is just an all-time great coach and doesn't get enough credit for it. Completely changing his offense to fit Lamar Jackson and still being successful with it. Like, I feel like his name isn't brought up enough. We always talk about Tomlin. Hasn't had a losing season. Andy Reid, obviously, is Andy Reid, deserves all the credit in the world because he's an incredible coach. Harbaugh is right there with him. He's just an exceptional, exceptional coach. Finally, my last 2 points on this. The Chiefs, looking ahead, they'll bounce back. They'll be better. I mean, they've faced 2 tough opponents to start the season, 2 playoff contenders and potential threats to them in the AFC. They played the Browns week 1 and won a close game. They played the Ravens week 2 and lost a close game. There's no real shame in starting 1-1 against those teams. There's no shame at all. And I think next week it might get a little bit easier for them. I forget who they're facing. I would have to bring that up, and I'll bring that up in a second. But 1-1 with those 2 first games, with that schedule to start off, not exactly in the worst position possible. And then for the Ravens, they're probably not as good as they showed yesterday, but they did show a lot of resilience. Like I said, it was good to see them get up for the big game and be able to compete with the Chiefs. That's kind of, the mark of a good team, is a team that they might not always play their best game, but they play their best games against the best teams. They wake up for those big games. And the Ravens did that yesterday. And it was good to see that they did that. Do you have any final thoughts on that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just going to kind of be a back and forth. I really hope they meet again, maybe possibly in the AFC title game. But I think it's a very good inclination as to where the Ravens are going as a team. And I think that's the bigger takeaway of this, is how the Ravens look as a team. Everyone knows what the Chiefs are going to do. The Ravens coming in and winning a big game at home is awesome for them. So I think that's what they're going to take away from this. And what everyone's going to take away from this is, okay, the Ravens know how to fight back and win games. And that's especially against the Chiefs. And I think that's what we're going to look at going forward.
Right. The Lamar can't win from behind narrative kind of took a hit yesterday because they played from behind pretty much the whole game. The Chiefs' next 5 games are against the Chargers, the Eagles, the Bills, the football team, and the Titans. So kind of a little bit of a break with the Chargers. Chargers are a better team this year than they were last year, but Chiefs should still beat them. They should beat the Eagles. And then you got another tough stretch of games. The Bills are a good team. Washington, we'll see if they have Ryan Fitzpatrick back. But they've got a good defense. They're feisty. And the Titans, obviously, are a good team. So they've got a tough stretch to start the season. But a team like Kansas City, if they come out of this stretch, what are they, 1-1 now? Over those next 5 games, if they leave that in the 5-2 range, I think they take that every day of the week, and really they should be in that range because they should beat the Chargers, should beat the Eagles. Bills will be a tough game. They really should beat the football team, even if they are feisty, and the Titans will be a tough game. So just win one of those 2 tough games and just win the games you're supposed to, and they'll be in a good spot. So Chiefs are fine to start their season. Okay, let's move on to
when you get the vibration. Won't do no